Hello and welcome back to my hobby podcast. I am so happy you are here and joining me today. My name is Allie and I am a hobby lover based in New York City, and I've got a lot to talk about with you today. I am going to be talking about knitting, needlepoint, and sewing today. I think those are the only three categories. Yes. And within those categories, I have two finished objects and a handful of whips. I've got them scattered about. So I figure we'll just jump on in and start with my first category, which is knitting. And in that, talk about my first finished object, which is what I'm wearing, this lovely sweater here, which is the Eken Sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. So this sweater is, as you can tell, like a lovely turtleneck sweater. I knit the size D, which is my recommended size. My bust size, I think, falls like right in the middle of the range for size D, so that is what I chose to knit. And the yarn that I used is Mode at Rowan's alpaca wool in the color walnut, which is number 016. It is this just really lovely milk chocolatey brown. I think it's showing up a bit lighter on camera than it looks in real life, so I'll include a little like photo overlay of like what it really looks like in real life. But yeah, it's just like a gorgeous like milk chocolatey brown. It reminds me of hot chocolate and I love it. This yarn is 50% wool and 50% alpaca, so it is very warm. And with my radiator going, I'm not sure if you can hear that. I am hot right now. But no worries, I'm going to keep this sweater on because I love it and I'm very excited. As for needles and things, I think I did meet gauge for the most part. I did not do a gauge swatch. I just, once I finished like the back panel and started doing the front neck shaping, I kind of, measured back there to see where my gauge was falling. And I think I met gauge for the rows. No, for the stitches. And I think I had one extra row. Maybe I was maybe I was 2 over on rows or 1 over on stitches. Either way, my gauge was a tad bit tighter than like the designer suggests. But I kept going with it. I used the recommended needles, which were, I think, 4.5 millimeter for the body, like the stockinette portions, and 3.5 millimeter for the ribbing. So as you can tell, this is a turtleneck sweater. It is a folded over turtleneck sweater. I don't know why that word, sometimes R's get stuck in my throat. But you start by knitting the back panel, or like the back flat, and then you do these little increasing, I'm not sure if it's going to show, all again include photo overlay, video overlay. You do these shoulder increases, do the neck shaping, join in the round, do some raglan increases, to get this kind of like shouldery bit here. You split for sleeves, continue the body in stockinette until you get to the hem, which you then have the option to do in the round or a split hem, which I did opt to do the split hem version. And that is a lovely chunky, I think it's like 4.5 inches of 2x2 rib for the front, and then 5 or 6 inches of 2x2 rib for the back, which is just gorgeous. You then pick up for the sleeves. According to the pattern, I did the neck and then the sleeves, but you then pick up for the sleeves, knit those. They're pretty fitted. Not sure if you can see. Doing decreases all the way down until you get to the cuffs, which are also lovely 2x2 rib. And then lastly, pick up for the turtleneck 2x2 rib. Again, this is a nice long turtleneck folded over, and yeah, you just get this beautiful kind of chunky, cozy sweater. So I did not make any modifications to this sweater. I knit exactly as the pattern said to do so, and I think it turned out really, really well. The fit is exactly as I wanted it to be. It is somewhere in between being fitted and loose. I knew I didn't want anything too loose or oversized, but I didn't want anything super fitted either. And I think it is just the perfect fit for me. The sleeves are fitted. The body has a little bit of breathing room. I can wear a tank top under it comfortably and not feel like constricted at all, but it's not so big and bulky and kind of like swallowing me alive. I find a lot of my turtleneck sweaters that I buy from stores are these like ginormous potato sack type sweaters. Like there's nothing I love more than a massive turtleneck sweater that is just like, it's just hugging you. But those don't fit well under jackets. And I really wanted a turtleneck sweater that would fit well under a coat. So this one does. I'm happy to report. I haven't worn it outside yet, but hopefully I'll have a chance to in the next few days. But yeah, I wanted a sweater that had a little bit of positive ease, but wasn't too big. I didn't want it too fitted, and I feel like it just like falls in that perfect in between for me. I also just love the chunky, like thick, long ribbing on the cuffs and the hem and the turtleneck. I love ribbing. I love thick ribbing. I love how the turtleneck looks folded over. It feels tasteful and substantial without being overwhelming, which I really like. And the split hem. I am just the biggest fan of a split hem. I think every sweater, pullover sweater I knit from now on, I will have a split hem, whether or not the pattern calls for it. I just love the way it fits on my body. My hips are my widest part. Did I say port? My hips are my the widest part of my body. And the split hem, like nothing's grippy and grabbing me with a split hem. It just kind of fits and falls so nicely. So I'm a big fan of the split hem. If you're wearing low or mid-rise jeans, you have like a little peak of skin showing, but not too much, or you can wear a tank top underneath it. With high-rise jeans, at least with this one, the split hem, the top of the split of the hem hits right where my high-rise jeans hit, so I don't have to wear a tank top underneath it if I don't want to, but always the option to if I do decide to. So I really, really like that. And yeah, I just am thrilled with this sweater. So overall, I think this is a really beautiful pattern. I think it is probably the most well-written pattern I have ever knit. The designer gave such clear instructions. I was never confused about what I was doing or what I was doing next. She gave stitch counts throughout. I was constantly getting stitch counts, which reassures me that I am not messing up and I'm on the right track. I love having a stitch count available like every step of the way. So that is something I really appreciated. And I think overall it was just like a very seamless, kind of carefree knitting experience for me. Maybe not carefree, mindless knitting experience for me. I didn't have to think too much with anything. I had encountered all of these techniques and things that you do in this before, so that made it a pretty easy pattern for me. I would say if you are a beginner knitter, this is definitely a beginner knitter friendly pattern. I would say I am a competent beginner, maybe borderline advanced beginner, but I think if you want to knit this as your first sweater, by all means, please do. I don't think there was anything in it that wasn't not figure outable for a beginner, for a first sweater, if that makes sense. Yeah, not that I can think of. So if you want to knit this as your first sweater, please do. I think it is such a lovely pattern. I would love to see more projects of this on Ravelry. Yeah, I just think it is a perfect brown turtleneck sweater, and I'm so thrilled to add it to my wardrobe. I will give a little price breakdown and day breakdown if that is something you're interested in. So this was on my needles for 58 days. And I used about 8.5 balls of yarn, which were around $9 each. So that comes out to $76.50 for the materials. So my all-in cost for this sweater is $86.46, which I think is a great price. I'd probably pay more than that at J.Crew for this sweater. I wonder how much like a wool turtleneck sweater at J.Crew is right now. I'm going to Google that. Okay, well, not exact. I couldn't find like a super similar sweater on J.Crew's website right now in my quick browsing. Maybe with some more research, I'll be able to find one. But I did find a brown turtleneck sweater that's got some ribbing called their Ribbed Turtleneck Sweater in Wool Donegal Wool Blend. And the brown version right now is on sale for $114.99, about $15 off from $128 originally. So my sweater is, with the $114, like $30-ish less. If you don't count my labor, which I don't count, this is a hobby, I'm not like going to count my labor in that. And their sweater is 65% wool, 30% recycled, I can never say this word, polyamide, and 5% alpaca. So my 50% wool, 50% alpaca ribbed turtleneck sweater that I made is about $30 less than a comparable one from J.Crew. So I am very happy with that. I think $86 for this sweater. I am very, very pleased. So that is everything I have to say about my Eken sweater. Full details will be on my Ravelry, which I will link below if you want to see more photos or I guess like read about my experience a little bit, although I don't do a big write-up, but I've got notes and whatnot in there. So if you want to check that out, that is linked below, but that is everything for my Eken sweater. And now I'm going to move on to my next project, which is my first whip of this podcast episode, my Toffee Sweater by Cozy Knits. So the Toffee Sweater by Cozy Knits is a collared V-neck pullover. I am working mine up in the size large, which is the second largest size and also one size up from my recommended size based on my bust measurement. I do want this to be like a slightly oversized kind of toss on sweatshirty sweater. I really envision myself wearing it like summer evenings at the beach when it's a little cooler at night, up in Vermont, maybe at like a bonfire at night. Mainly summer nights, maybe like warmer spring days, like when it's like 70 degrees in the spring. But anyways, that's kind of, you get my idea, as like a nice summer toss on, kind of like an elevated sweatshirt, if you will. So that is my vision for this sweater. As I said, I'm using white yarn. I am knitting this up in Knit Picks woolen cotton in the color Bear, which is their undyed colorway, and it is just a really pretty creamy off-white that I love. And I did meet gauge on the recommended needle size, which is 4 millimeters. So this is what I have so far. Let's see, I'm not sure if I can hold it up with my hand, but this is where I am at. I almost finished the back panel. I'm in the middle of a row right now, and then once I finish that, I'm finished with the back panel, and I will be able to move on to the 2 front panels. So this is the back of the sweater. And the collar. So you do start by knitting the collar in this kind of pita pocket. It is this double, like folded over pita pocket collar. I don't know what you call it. Yeah, it's like a pita pocket, like a U-shape collar that you knit, and then you join it all together to kind of get this thick, double thick collar, which is just lovely. You knit the back panel, then you do the 2 front panels, like the front left and right side for the V. You'll join in the round, you'll knit the body, and then you will knit the sleeves. So that's kind of how the construction goes. But I have finished the back panel as I just showed you and the collar. I have some atrocious rowing out. Look, I think you can already see it from there, can't you? Ooh, gosh, that's so embarrassing. That is really embarrassing. I don't know why. It's horrible. Most of the really, really bad rowing out is hidden by the collar. But it's not good. It's not good at all. Most of it is hidden by the collar when it is folded over. I do have a little bit that is visible. I have been for the past 15 or 20 rows really, really cautious and cognizant of my tension and how that's going. So I think that has kind of helped with some of the rowing out, which actually, honestly, this is the first time rowing out has been an issue for me. It wasn't on my swatch. It's never been like a massive issue for me. This is the first time I'm like really, really noticing it. So I am going to block what I have, block the collar in this back panel, and see if that fixes any of my rowing out concerns. If not, I think I'm still going to keep going. I'm just going to leave it. This is kind of like a nighttime sweatshirt type of vibe anyways, so I will probably only be wearing it in the dark. I also envision myself wearing it in slightly more rustic places, I guess. So if it looks a little rustic, a little homemade, I'm not too concerned. So I don't know, we'll block it, we'll see. Fingers crossed that like addresses some of it. Even like if it gets 50% better, I'll be happy. So fingers crossed that kind of resolves some of this rowing out concern. But that is my Toffee sweater for now. Hopefully in my next podcast episode, I will have an update for you on the rowing out. And fingers crossed it all goes well and I will have one of the front panels started. That would be so lovely. My next whip is my little DIY green poncho that I am making. I started this last July or August maybe, put it down in September and picked it up again 3 or 4 weeks ago. I am basically knitting a giant rectangle and then I will be folding it together and like attaching it to make this poncho. So there's no size or pattern for this. It is, I think, very easy to make. I have sewn ponchos like this before with this kind of like idea. So I'm hoping it'll translate to knitting well as well. I have finished this in the middle or put it down in the middle of a row, but here it is so far. This is what we've got. It is, I love the movement. I love how it's draping. This is my little poncho rectangle so far. I am knitting this up in Isager Trio 2 in the color Green Tea, which is just a really lovely kind of rusticy green color. It is quite bright, but it does have some variation within it, so it's not like one solid color. There's some darker portions, some lighter portions, not like a ton, but it's got a little depth to it. So I'm really, really loving this. It is, I think, a linen viscose blend. I will put that info somewhere on the screen for you. But yeah, I'm loving this so far. I did block it the other day, if I didn't say, and it grew maybe like 1/4 of an inch lengthwise, and I don't think it grew widthwise at all. And yeah, this is just what it's looking like so far. Just going to be a giant rectangle. Not too much to say on this right now. I will say I cast on, I want to say like 50 or 60 stitches. I have that info on my Ravelry. So I will double check and put that somewhere on the screen for you. And I am knitting this on what size needles? 3.75 millimeter needles. So moving along with this one, this is another project that I really want for our trip in June that we're going on. I think I have visions of myself wearing a bunch of handmade things on this vacation, but these two, this Toffee Sweater and this poncho are two that I really, really want for that. So I think I'm like at 20 or so inches, and I think I want this to be about 45 inches long, so almost halfway there. But I have just been moving and grooving on this at night when like I'm watching Love Island All Stars. So this is like a good kind of mindless knit for a mindless show. So that is that. That's all the info I've got on this guy here. But I'm hoping to have him finished within the next like 6 weeks. Would be really, really great. So that is my DIY green poncho. And I think that concludes all of my knitting for today. I do have 2 other projects in the works. I have not touched them. Actually, that's not true. My mohair bias loop I did work on recently for like a 20-minute bus ride. I really have made very little visible progress, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. And the swallowtail shawl, I am confused. So I dropped a stitch. I tried to pick it back up. I've tried to figure out where I am in that. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling frustrated. So I'm just going to put that down, put it aside, and not think about it for a little while. Just avoid it. I have another green project that I'm working on, this DIY poncho. So I'm okay if I'm not working on the swallowtail shawl right now. So yeah, that is it for my knitting. And I think next I will talk about my needlepoint. I have no finished objects in this category. I think this will be a quick little needlepoint check-in. The first project I did want to talk to you about is my Valentine's Day canvas. I made a video, I guess 2 weeks ago now, that is all about this canvas. I talk about it, I paint it, and I start stitching it in that video. I have not finished stitching it in that video or in this one. But that is this canvas here. It says, "Still not sick of you," and it is going to be a pillow one day. I have fully finished the pink and red hearts, as well as the letters, the words. I have not done the background at all. I don't have the thread for the background yet. I think I'm just going to get like a solid white of some sort for the background thread, because I do want this to be a pillow, so I don't want it to be like anything overwhelming. And yeah, I don't have the fabric for that either. I will go to the fabric store at some point. Maybe actually I'll go to the fabric store first and pick out my fabric, because maybe that'll kind of like light a fire under my bum to go buy some white thread. I'm not thrilled with using white thread in my hobbies. Yeah, not thrilled about white thread. So I think maybe I'll get my fabric first for the pillow, which I said in my last video, my project video for this, that I want to make like a little pillow with a massive, like a 7-inch ruffle, a huge ruffle around it. So yeah, that's that. That is my Still Not Sick of You canvas. That is the progress I have so far. I think part of the reason I also haven't picked up my background thread yet is because I truly have no clue what background stitch I want to do. Whoopsie. Which is where my next little needlepoint whip comes in, which is my stitch library. Here we have it, my little stitch library. I've got 3 3/4 different decorative stitches on here so far. I have only added one in the past few weeks, which is the one on the far right, I think. Is that your right? My left, your right. That one there. And that is, I think it's diagonal Scotch stitch. So I have brick stitch, woven wicker stitch and diagonal scotch. So these are all decorative stitches. I am just stitching a bunch of decorative stitches on this canvas to see what they look like in real life. I like having visual, physical references that I can like see and touch. So that is why I am doing this. And I actually think this is super helpful because I thought, oh, maybe I would like to do the brick stitch as the background for the my little Valentine's Day Still Not Sick of You pillow. Looking at it now, I do not like it for that at all. So I'm very happy I did this because otherwise I would be just ripping out stitches constantly and feeling a little frustrated. So that is my stitch library. I've just got 3/4 of a stitch of the diagonal scotch stitch on here in the past week or two. And then my last needlepoint project that I'm going to be talking about today is my Statue of Liberty Christmas canvas. Here she is. Such minimal progress, if any. Oh God, I think I got something on the white thread here. I don't know if you can tell. This is a canvas that I designed and painted myself. I will have the chart in a like Google Drive file link down in the description box. If you also want to paint this yourself, it is completely free. But yeah, designed it, painted it. I'm going to make a whole little New York City Christmas village of all of these different like New York City landmarks and things wrapped in Christmas lights. So next on my queue is the subway car. I think I showed maybe 2 or 3 videos ago. I showed the design for that one. And I am currently working on a Brooklyn Bridge chart, but that is proving to be quite difficult for me. So anyways, not here to talk about those, here to talk about this one right now. I have almost finished one of the thread cards that I'm using for the background stitch. I'm not sure if you can even see that. This like creamy white background. I think I have, let me see. I have about this much left on this card, and then I have 2 more. So I think I've got just enough to do what I want to do, which is to basically make a giant white rectangle around the Statue of Liberty. I haven't done that quite yet. I'm kind of doing like an outline of her just to make sure I can fill in as much as I can, and then I will go in and even it out at the end. That's probably not what you're supposed to do, but I don't think there should be rules in needlepoint. I'm not needlepoint police, so that is what I am doing. But yeah, very, happy with how this is going. You will hear me talk about basically only holiday themed things with needlepoint because for me, that is what needlepoint is. It is for like the fun, silly holiday decor items. I'm not like, maybe I would like needlepoint like something like random like coasters or like a little door hang, but most of the things that I needlepoint will be holiday or life milestone memory event related. So that's why we've got Valentine's Day and Christmas in this little category here. So that's it for my needlepoint things. I told you really not too much to say or update you on with those guys. They are moving along, as I said, some roadblocks there, both of them needing white thread, or both of them, I'm using white thread on both of them. And I still have to figure out a background stitch for my Valentine's Day canvas. So that is that with needlepoint, not too much going on there. And then my last category that I want to talk about is sewing. And I have never talked about sewing on here before, like garment sewing. I've talked about quilting because I do quilt, but I've never talked about garment sewing because I've never really garment sewed. I got my sewing machine in 2020, just before COVID. I got my wisdom teeth out. Like, I think it was March 2nd or March 3rd that I got my wisdom teeth out, and then the world shut down a few days later. And I got a sewing machine when I got my teeth out, so I had an activity to do at home. This was pre-knitting, pre-needlepoint, whatever. So I had a hobby, an activity to do at home for a few days while I was recovering, and I attempted to make a few things with it during COVID. Nothing I've ever worn out of the house, out of the apartment, and I think this next object is going to be the same. I do not think I will ever wear it outside, at least this version of it. I am planning on making 3 or 4 more of this pattern because I do have some ideas of what I'd want to wear outside, but I will be making some modifications, and that is the Shoreline Shift by Cayden Naughton, I think is how you say her name. So here it is. I'm not sure if that's going to show at all. Anyways, I'll insert pictures, but this is my Shoreline Shift by Cayden Naughton. It took me 8 hours to make, maybe over 2 or 3 days. And I really like the idea of this dress. There's a lot I like about it. I like the shape. I like how quick it was for me to sew. I felt like it was pretty beginner friendly. I think the bias tape section was confusing. But I think having used bias tape and done binding and things with quilts, I understood it a bit better than maybe had I never made or used bias tape before. I might have been a bit more confused, but overall, I liked the pattern. I've only made 1 iteration of it. I have at least 3 more that I want to make, but this one is my first one, and it is made in a fabric I bought probably in 2020 when I first got my sewing machine, and it is a rayon, light blue floral rayon fabric. I really cannot hold this up. It's just not going to fit. So pictures it is. But it is just this floral, light blue floral rayon fabric, which was not the best choice for this. It is kind of slippery and fiddly. So actually, I will say, given how slippery and fiddly this fabric was, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I decided to make size 5, which my bust measurement was between sizes 4 and 5, but I wanted this to be more of an oversized, slightly looser fit. This one especially, I intend to wear as a nightgown, so I do want something loose. I don't like anything to be too restricting when I sleep, so I'd rather it be a little too big than a little too tight, or a little too small. So that is why I went with a size 5. And I think that was the correct choice. So I think if I were to make this again, which I'm going to, I would probably shorten the sleeves. It is a pretty big scoop, and the armpit is pretty deep. So I think I could get away with shortening I called them sleeves, straps a little bit on my next version. And the other thing I would do if I were to make this again is to lengthen it by a few inches. I just feel like this is really, really short right now. I am not a short dress person at all, or a short skirt person. So I think in order for me to make one that I would want to wear outside, I would need to shorten the straps and lengthen the dress by a couple of inches, which I think I will do for the next time I make this, which maybe this week. I might make it again on Wednesday and Thursday. I think could be a fun little project again to do. It only took me 2 days to make it. The first day I cut everything out and made the bias tape, and then on the second day I sewed it all together. So that is it for sewing. I do have a lot more sewing projects in the works. I have 20 or 30 sewing patterns on my Google Drive that I've purchased from here, there, and everywhere. And I did get, I think, 5 of them printed. So I am hoping to sew a lot more clothing, like more garments, this spring and summer. That is a big goal of mine, is to just sew garments. I really want to have more of a me-made wardrobe. I mean, not 100% me, but like 50% would be incredible to have by next summer. 50% of like my core summer wardrobe to be me-made, self-made would, I think, be a great feeling. So that is that. You'll be seeing a lot more sewing on here, hopefully. But yeah, that is everything. So thank you so much for joining me. I would love to hear in the comments what you are working on. If you have made any of these patterns that I've talked about before, I would love to know. I'd love to see them. So if you have like a Ravelry link to any of them, pop it down there. And yes, so again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.